Good afternoon, members of the media, wider viewing and listening public of Trinidad and Tobago. Thank you again for your time and attention this afternoon at approximately 4 p.m. Trinidad and Tobago time. We thought it fit to just provide an update on what has been going on during the course of today and also what we expect over the next 24 hours. I'd like to start by thanking the media for their professional coverage during the course of today and for keeping the public abreast. Unfortunately, persons still continue to try and disseminate false and inaccurate information. So we thought it fit to have this conference this afternoon. As you're all aware by now, I'm sure, but for the wider public of Trinidad and Tobago, the Met Service at 3 p.m. this afternoon downgraded us from being in a red warning for the tropical storm Karen to an adverse weather alert. So we went down to orange this afternoon, down from red with respect to tropical storm Karen. What that means is that the tropical storm warning for Trinidad and Tobago was discontinued at 3 p.m. this afternoon, and tropical storm Karen continued to move away from both islands. The threat of the tropical storm condition no longer exists for Trinidad and Tobago. The tropical storm warning is now downgraded to an adverse weather warning, as the ongoing weather is expected to continue today into tomorrow and can have severe impacts in several communities. As you all would be aware, fortunately, once again for Trinidad and Tobago, the tropical storm veered away from Trinidad and Tobago and has proceeded further up north. So the downgrade took place from red to orange at 3 p.m. and I've just been in contact with the director of the Met Services, and at 8 p.m. this evening we expect the Met Service, they're likely to discontinue all of the warnings related to tropical storm Karen. However, unfortunately, that does not mean the end of the monitoring of the weather patterns that we're currently facing in Trinidad and Tobago. At the same time of 3 p.m. this afternoon, the Met Service raised us to a red level warning for riverine flood warnings. I am sure by now you all would be aware that throughout Trinidad and Tobago, despite all of the great work that has been done, there has been a rise in our river levels. We will continue to monitor this over the night. So what the Met Service has said, due to the continued rainfall that we're experiencing, and Minister LaHunt, when he speaks, will give us the exact figures that we have for the amount of rainfall we've experienced in the last 24 hours, which is an unusual amount. What will happen is we're going to continue monitoring, but we suspect that there may be flooding and rivers may break their banks. We've continued to monitor the major river courses during the course of today, the Caroni River, other rivers throughout Trinidad. And the Met Service believes, based on the amount of rainfall that they expect to hit us over the next 24 hours, that there is need to carry us up to a red level warning for riverine flooding in Trinidad and Tobago. This is a significant threat for areas near major river courses and tributaries. River levels are currently near threshold values. Further rainfall is expected. Can I ask whoever phone that is that continues to go off, you could just put it on silent? What we're seeing during the course of today, citizens of Trinidad and Tobago, is that floodwaters throughout Trinidad and Tobago continue to rise. There continue to be some flash flooding throughout Trinidad and Tobago. You all have all seen it on the media, on social media. And I'd like to use this opportunity to warn citizens. We continue to warn. When there are these heavy rainfalls taking place and flash flooding taking place, it is not a good idea to jump into your motor vehicles and to venture out there. It was actually quite disturbing to see the amount of videos circulating that were obviously taken from persons in cars as they drove through floodwaters, and then to see some cars completely submerged in floodwaters. It is not a good idea. We ask that everyone exercise caution, especially in the next 24 hours, and do not venture out unless you absolutely need to. It is very easy for flash flooding to catch you unaware, for a road that may have been clear 2 minutes before to suddenly become engulfed, especially close to river courses. So we are asking persons, please avoid going out in your vehicles unless it is absolutely necessary in the next 24 hours, especially in areas that are prone to flooding. I'd also like to use the opportunity to ask people to have a lot of caution where there's live electricity, especially in low-lying, some houses where there's a downstairs area that may be experiencing floodwaters. Electricity and water, quite simply, don't mix. So you can suffer electrocution. TNTech is going to continue to monitor throughout. We've had during the course of today with some very heavy winds, electrical wires touching and clashing and sparks and this type of thing. But in the meantime, please avoid floodwaters. There is a risk of electrocution. Also, as the Minister of Health told us earlier today, with floodwaters, it is prone to carrying disease, not only from animals that may be deceased as a result of flooding, but there's often raw sewage and other diseases that are carried in floodwater. So we ask you to be particularly careful and exercise caution and don't venture out into the floodwaters unless absolutely necessary. We saw during the course of the last few hours a number of videos, including some where it seemed as though children were being encouraged to traverse floodwaters. We're asking that you please exercise caution and don't do as such. What I'd also like to say, and I'll really, when we come to the conclusion, talk about who it is that I'd like to thank. But at this stage, it really would be remiss of me not to thank the men and women of the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service. They have provided us constantly with a tremendous source of current information from all of the various divisions. The Commissioner of Police who is here and his men and women have provided us with a great deal of information throughout the course of the last few hours as they go about their duties, and they will be continuing with their duties over the course of overnight into tomorrow. We are getting great assistance from the police service. The Defence Force continues to be on standby to provide whatever assistance they need, and the other arms, the fire services. Just before coming in here, we had a situation in Mount Lambert where some persons were stranded, and just before coming in, I was informed that the fire service were able to rescue those persons. You all would have seen the numerous videos throughout Trinidad and Tobago of the type of weather patterns and the circumstances and of what has taken place as a result of the weather. We will continue to monitor it. We're constantly in contact. I've been in contact throughout the whole course of today with the ODPM as well as the Met Services, and we will continue to provide updates as we go on. I'd like to pass over to my colleagues, the Minister of Works and Transport and the Minister of Local Government and Rural Development, and then the Minister of Public Utilities. And at the end of that, I'll then address you all on the decisions that we're taking with respect to the next 24 hours. Thank you.
Thank you. Good afternoon, all. Just on a follow-up from our report this morning, our teams continue to be out there reporting to us on the activities that is taking place. However, at this point in time, the riverine flooding has exacerbated unto the point where most of our rivers are at its peak. Unfortunately, we have 3 rivers so far that would have toppled its bank. That's the St. Joseph, the Sanwa, the Diego Martin, and 4, the Maraval River to some extent. Couple that with some rivers in the south that would have reached the peak of their capacity. Unfortunately, there's nothing much that could be done about that, except to say that we urge the population to please, if you could avoid going out, don't congest the roadway, because we have to get equipment out there now to assist in those areas where the rivers would have toppled and we do have a lot of blockage in certain areas. We would have engaged now, as of now, some of the contractors and some of the equipment to put them to work. But if there are certain areas that they cannot access because there are too much cars actually enjoying the view of the flow of the water, that will definitely hinder us. So we will do what we can out there. Our rivers now are at the full capacity. Unfortunately, there isn't much that we can do. We're enjoying the fact that there's a low tide now, and we're hoping to get a huge runoff. But with the capacity of water still on the land, we are seeing a challenge going forward. Please work with us, and we will do our part to ensure that in the shortest possible time we can bring back some sort of normalcy to the livelihood of our citizens. Thank you.
Thank you very much and good evening to all. Commissioner of Police, Captain Gary Griffith. All 14 municipal corporations have been mobilized and in state of preparedness to respond to emergency requests from citizens since the escalation to orange alert. Disaster management field officers across Trinidad and Tobago have been on the ground since early this morning, assisting with mitigation efforts such as sandbag distribution. Thus far, over 20,000 sandbags have been distributed to high-risk and flood-prone areas across Trinidad. CERT volunteers are on standby to assist in various communities. Fallen trees. There have been reports of fallen trees in the following areas: Embacade in San Fernando, Radix Cemetery in Mayaro, St. Joseph, Tunapuna, Balandra, and Toko. Disaster officers responded to these reports and initiated the clearing of the trees, assisted by Tiantec. Landslips have been reported in Asaiva and in Cocorite. Shelters are being opened as the need arises in communities across the island. The list of shelters in each municipality, the contact numbers and addresses are available through the ministry's website and on social media. At present, we can confirm that the Beetham Community Center has been activated as a shelter, and there are currently over 50 persons being housed at that shelter. CPEP, with the assistance of the municipal corporations, are ready and equipped to conduct cleanup activities as soon as it is safe to do so. The ministry is constantly posting updates to social media, especially Facebook, updating citizens of flooding occurrences. Many areas are experiencing heavy rainfall. However, the regions of Diego Martin experienced 66 millimeters of rainfall within the hours of 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Severely affected areas were Diego Martin, Cuva Tabakit, Sanwa Barataria, Aranguez, Santa Cruz, Edinburgh 500, St. Augustine along the Eastern Main Road, and Maraval. At this time, I want to remind citizens of flood-prone areas to be vigilant, pay attention to rainfall and rising floodwaters so as to ensure a safe evacuation if required. Keep abreast of information coming from official sources such as ODPM and the TT Met office. I always advocate for us to look out for one another. We must be our brother's keeper, especially the vulnerable members of our community. Make sure to check on our elders, persons who are ill, and households with children. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago. Thank you, Stuart. Just taking off where you left off with regard to the conditions and the amount of actual water that has resulted from this weather condition. Putting it into context, in Piarco, for example, for the month of September, from the 1st to the 21st of September, we had 89.8 millimeters of rainfall. From 2 p.m. yesterday to 3 p.m. today, that particular one day, we had 71.5 milliliters of rainfall, giving you a total of 161. So that was in Piarco. If you look at what happened in Crown Point with regard to the measurement, in the case of Crown Point, for the month of September to date, up to the 21st, you had 90 millimeters of rainfall. But for the particular day, from the 21st to the 22nd, you had 132 millimeters of rainfall, giving you a total of 222. So in that particular day, between 2 p.m. yesterday to 3 p.m. today, in Crown Point, Tobago, we had 132 millimeters of rainfall compared to 90 for the whole month of September. The average for long-term average for September is normally about 171. So that represents on one day about close to 80% of the rainfall you'll have for a whole month of September. Again, of course, Tobago Tobago has been the hardest hit. When I look at the areas from the utility perspective, TNTech has gotten about 65 reports in Tobago, especially throughout of Tobago, but again, hardest hit is more the eastern side and the northern side of Tobago. There are lots of fallen trees, and therefore that has affected the ability of the team to get to the areas. Using the mobile substation, they were able to bring back supply in the Charlottesville and in the Studley Park area, but outstanding, they have on their record about 60 outages that are still outstanding in Tobago. There's been a lull in the rainfall there, and they're using this time. They expect it to start back up a little bit later in the evening, and they're using this time to go out there to try to see how they could rectify as much as what it is and restore the situation. In Trinidad, it's been a lot better. In Trinidad, we have gotten about 43 outages, 43 calls. That number has been reduced based on the work that they have been able to do, down to 28. So they have been able to restore some of the areas, and they expect, based on what we are seeing, that by the end of the night, most of the areas in Trinidad should be back up. From a water perspective, as I mentioned, in Tobago, we have had a situation where it had affected a lot of our surface water, both in Trinidad and Tobago. So a lot of our water treatment plants, especially in the north of the country, northeast area, they have been down because of turbidity in the water, Aripo, and therefore the areas of Arima, Aripo, Matura, those areas have been affected. Even in Maraval, that water treatment plant temporarily went down. It's back up, but we have had some problems with the water treatment plants, and I had to shut them down temporarily. The same thing has happened in Tobago, but in Tobago, again, our percentage of groundwater is fairly high, so we have the groundwater supply continues to be fairly resilient, and we have not had that impact. But by and large, the crew out of TNTech, they are working to try to restore the electricity to affected areas as quickly as possible. They are on the job. They are doing a good job in regard to restoration in Trinidad. Tobago is proving to be a challenge, based, as I said before, because of the nature, a lot of fallen trees and so forth, and they are not getting access to the area, but they are working. We have some backup crews from Trinidad that are on standby to go across to Tobago, and they are looking clearly based on the workload that they have, they would expect that by sometime tomorrow, they should be able to restore most of the electricity supply on the island. In the case of TSTT, I've gotten no negative response. It seemed to be, the network is very resilient, and it has been okay. So by and large, that is what has been the state of play from the utilities perspective. Again, I want to repeat some of the points that was made earlier with regard to electricity and water. The two just don't mix. And therefore, if you have a problem, take the time to call into TNTech, and they will respond as quickly as they can. With regard to water, I heard the Minister of Health talking about the idea of boiling your water and using some drips of Clorox in the water to help purify the water. That is a good practice at this time, especially if you are in areas that are flooded areas. So that's it. Again, it's just about keeping, if you are having issues, come back, call TNTech as quickly as you can. They will get out there.
Thank you very much. At this stage, I'd like to pass us over to Major General Retired Rodney Smart, the CEO of ODPM, for him to provide us with the information. As we go into the night period, ODPM remains the body that will be pulling resources together and getting resources out where needs be. So at this stage, I'll ask Major General Retired Smart to give us the ODPM information. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Minister. So just to reiterate that the ODPM National Emergency Operations Center was stood up today and will remain so until such time as we feel that the threat that we're facing has dissipated. The numbers you can get us at 800 ODPM 800-6376, as well as 640-1285. We also have the 511 numbers. And if you need to get on to TEMA, the TEMA number is 211. So please use those numbers if at any point in time you need assistance. Thank you, Mensa.
Thank you very much, Major General. I also want to hold out as another emergency number over the next 24 hours, and this number is always operational, the police emergency number of 999. We have instituted a service now where when the police receive the information, if they need to get it to the other arms, that can be done, and also we'll feed it to ODPM as well. So in addition to those numbers, you have the 999 number. Ladies and gentlemen, as we go into the dusk and nightfall area, continue to monitor your situations. We will certainly continue to monitor from where we are. I'd just like to provide a couple further updates. We have called out and we have ready to be deployed 1,000 men and women of the Trinidad and Tobago Defence Force, and we've strategically placed them. So in case there needs be, we also have the Defence Force to assist the various arms. The fire service, the police service have been doing a tremendous amount of work and a great work, the police in particular, in upkeeping the law and order. There is three other issues I'd like to touch on very briefly. We have gotten feedback on Oropoon and Greenvale from HDC. They continue to do the monitoring that is necessary. They continue to be on the ground there. The pumps are working and everything at this stage is fine in those areas. We will continue to be actively monitoring those areas via HDC, and we have our first responders as well. One issue that has not been raised today, but the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service asked me to raise it, is the issue of the volcano in Piparo. There was no explosion of the volcano last night. There was one house that was affected. There was movement. That house has now been cordoned off. The authorities are there on the ground. I got an update from the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service just before. They are monitoring the volcano, and we are asking that persons not go to see the volcano. At this stage, there seems to be some activity, and we do not want anyone being injured. So that is what is going on there. The Minister of Local Government has also visited during the course of today and provided a report. But the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service has advised that people avoid the area. We just don't need any extra things going wrong right now and persons distracting us from the jobs that we have at hand. We have taken a decision based on consultation with the Met Office. In fact, this morning, since 5 a.m. this morning, I've been in constant contact with Minister LaHunt, as well as the Met Services, the Director of the Met Services, and the Acting Prime Minister, and before he left, the Substantive Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago. We have taken a decision to wait a little closer to this hour, to the 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock hour today, to make an assessment. As you now know and as you've heard, we are no longer under the threat of Tropical Storm Karen. But right now what we're facing is a red level warning with respect to Riverine. As a result of that, we have taken a decision that schools will be closed tomorrow. All schools will be closed tomorrow. We are not, however, closing businesses or government offices at this stage tomorrow. We don't see the need for that. We ask persons to exercise caution and precaution, but we're not going to be shutting down businesses and the government tomorrow. Schools, however, will be closed tomorrow. Minister Garcia will be dealing with that, and we had just taken that decision after consultation with the Met Services. The Meteorological Services of Trinidad and Tobago have advised us that based on what they see as the risk factor of flooding and riverine flooding and them raising the level to red, that we should take the precaution of closing schools tomorrow. So schools in Trinidad and Tobago tomorrow would be closed. At this stage, I'd like to take the opportunity through you, the media, to thank all of the men and women who have been working effortlessly and with complete commitment over the last 24 hours and more, and will be continuing to work over the next 24 plus hours. Those are the men and the women in Trinidad and Tobago Police Service or Fire Service, the ODPM staff, all of the public utilities staff, all of the Ministry of Works and Transport staff, all of the councillors, all the men, all of the local government representatives, in particular what we call the DMUs, who are out there. Those are the disaster management units. They have been practicing assiduously and doing some great work in simulation exercises over the last few months, and they continue to be out there working. The Trinidad and Tobago Defense Force, all of the HDC workers, and I say all the TNTEC WASA workers, and all of those who continue to work to keep us safe and secure. And in ending the conference, we'd like to just stress exactly what was said by the Minister of Health, the Minister of Public Utilities, the other ministers, Works and Transport, local government, and myself. Unless it is absolutely necessary, please try to stay off the roads, avoid areas that are prone to flooding, be very cautious. There can be disease borne via water, and also we don't want persons becoming trapped in cars. You have the numbers to contact in case of an emergency, and we will continue monitoring over the course of the next 24 hours, and we will issue the necessary advisories via the Met Service and the ODPM and any other ministry that sees it fit. So in closing, what we say, there will be no school for the children of Trinidad and Tobago during the course of tomorrow, and we just ask that everyone continues to be very practical and exercise a great degree of common sense and don't take unnecessary risks. I'd like to once again end by thanking the members of the media for your continued coverage of this situation. And I ask, let us be responsible. It was very disheartening, as usual, to see just before coming here, someone pull up an old report from 2017 with respect to something that had happened in June 2017 and start circulating that, saying that there would be no school tomorrow in an effort just to create a sense of hype in the country. That is not something to be encouraged. So members of the media, thank you all very much at this stage. I guess we can entertain a couple of questions, but we really want to get back out there and do some monitoring. Jewel.
How has the Prime Minister been updated in terms of cabinet decisions concerning schools and so on?
Well, as you all are aware, anytime a substantive member of cabinet is outside, there's an acting member in Trinidad and Tobago, and that's the first point of contact. We have an acting Prime Minister, that's Minister Imbert. He has been in touch. He was with myself, the Minister of Planning and Development, Minister of Foreign Affairs this morning at Piarco with the substantive Prime Minister, Dr. Rowley. We discussed matters, we've briefed it. Dr. Rowley trusts us to do what is necessary and what is right for Trinidad and Tobago. So that is a seamless transition. The Prime Minister, Dr. Rowley, has now arrived in New York. He has been briefed, and I'm sure at the right time he will issue whatever message he wants. But there has been absolutely no break in us being able to provide what needs to be to Trinidad and Tobago. And the substantive Prime Minister is very aware of all that is going on.
Hi, good afternoon, Minister Lee Hunt. After all of this, is the reservoirs still empty? I mean...
Well, I mean, we started the position, as you know, we started at the reservoirs being very much, I was 50% below the long-term average in a number of cases. So I think this will go a long way in helping us to get there, but there's a lot of catching up to do. So I would expect that there still would be some catching up because we were about 50% in most cases where we would have liked to be in most of the reservoirs.
All right, thank you all members of the media very, very much. Please, everybody, stay safe and continue to exercise precaution.